Namaste, friends. I'm Dr. Vikrant Tomar. I welcome you on behalf of United Consciousness, Project Self Incorporation USA, and Bharat. Few days back, a 6-year-old child, after watching news, told me that we are taught light in the school, but why there is darkness in the world? We are taught peace in the school, but why there is war in the world? We are taught harmony in the school, but why there is struggle in the world? We are taught smile in the school, but why there is tears in the world? I really have no answer to that innocent question of a small child. It made me think that the evolution of economic man, which led to industrialization, and then the evolution of a social man led to reformation in the societies. Culmination of rational man led to renaissance in the world. Evolution of a global man which led to globalization. By the virtue of all these, today we are living in an industrialized, globalized world, which is seeing extreme exploitation of resources and intense competitions at all the fronts. That's why you see that the United Nations total budget for disarmament is $0.69 billion, whereas the total defense budget of the world is $1,747 billion, which is 2,500 times more than the total disarmament budget of United Nations. 28 million soldiers are ready to attack each other on a single political decision. So certainly United Nations alone cannot make a peaceful, harmonized world. Everyone, every step counts. The time has come for the evolution of spiritual man. Theory of evolution talks about the theory of common descent. We all come from the same source. Theory of Big Bang also mentioned about our origin from the same point. Quantum physics talks about singularity. The time has come that the spiritual man declares that we are united in consciousness. We should have united anthems, united citizenship, united education. To create a united conscious world. United Consciousness is a global organization which operates in all 6 continents of the world with the mission of one consciousness, one being, so that we can see beyond limited divides of identities. 14 limited identities, orthodoxy of religion, intolerant thoughts, wealth, class, division on the basis of region, fanatic nationalism, status, species. When habitat considered themselves the master of the habitation, racism, casteism, divides on the basis of color, gender and sex orientation. To establish divine beyond these divisive identities, United Consciousness is working for creation of the world's first integrated manual of humanity. Another project is creation of the manual of human happiness. United Consciousness is also working for UC Youth. UC Global Youth will work for identifying and incubating global talents from all 6 continents, youth talent, who will act as a world parliament of youth for creating a consciousness, united consciousness world. In the same stream, we celebrate every year United Consciousness Conclave. UCC 2022 has a theme, One Consciousness, One Being, which is in line with the theme of G20. One Earth, One Family, One Future. We aim to create a world which has Maitri, which focuses on oneness. Karuna, when I feel your pain, you feel my pain. Mudita, when I am delighted in your joy, you smile in my joy. Upeksha, when we ignore differences and see divinity in each other. United Consciousness Conclave invites all of you on this 17th and 18th of December to sit back, relax and enjoy this global assembly of life coaches, spiritual masters, practitioners, yoga sadhakas, dance and art performers who come together from different parts of the globe, all 6 continents, to speak the common language of oneness. I also would like to thank Project Self Incorporation USA and Bharat, European Yoga Federation, Yoga Vidya Germany, Siddhashram Turkey, Yoga Alam Russia, Yogismo International South America, Spiritual Council in Africa, AYT Australia, for have contributed in making this event a success. Let's together declare United Consciousness so that we can answer the next generation, and with an affirmation that yes, in our world there is light, peace, harmony and smiles. Thank you very much.
Connect, bringing together European yoga teachers and establishing delegates and representatives for each country, considering the social differences in various countries and support the needs. Equality, regardless of gender, origin, sexual orientation, social class and religion, overcoming dogmatism, fundamentalism, to promote universal understanding.
Bye.
Promote, encouraging a yogic lifestyle and a holistic approach to life as a tool for physical and mental wellness, a more spiritually elevated, peaceful, happy and physically fit society.
Integrate and unify, integrating science and the art of yogic living, modern knowledges with ancient wisdoms for betterment of the world and global development. Recognizing, accepting and integrating the many different paths that lead to the same final goal, making sure that yoga will maintain its original purpose. Namaste.
Provide study of secular knowledge, philosophy and ancient text, Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Sutra and Veda. Study of techniques, modern developments in teaching techniques, incorporating scientific findings in medicine, psychology, etc. to guarantee a certain standard, an established graduation system to provide a minimum standard for yoga teachers training.
The Bhagavad Gita says, yoga is the journey of the self, through the self, to the self. Today, we are fortunate to welcome Swami Suryananda Saraswati ji from Italy. He is the creator and founder of the World Yoga and Ayurvedic Community, President of World Movement for Yoga and Ayurveda of the European Yoga Federation and the C.Y. Surya International School of Yoga and Ayurveda, Vice President of the International Yoga Federation of New Delhi and a founding member of the European Ayurveda Association. He has been practicing and teaching yoga for 52 years. He has held courses in Italy, India, Greece, France, Spain, Switzerland, and many other countries. The result of years of experience gained in close contact with Indian psychophysical reality, with luminaries of Ayurvedic medical sciences and Eastern monks, and is often present in major congress as a speaker. He authored many books dedicated to yoga and Ayurveda. Kofi Annan has rightly said, "We may have different religions, different languages, different colored skins, but we all belong to one human race." So now let's welcome Swami Suryananda Saraswati ji.
Good morning to all. Amelia, ci sei?
Sì, ci sono maestro. Namaste.
Io voglio prima di tutto ringraziare proprio dal cuore il dottor Vikrant per tutti gli sforzi, per tutta la bellezza degli eventi che organizza.
Namaste, and first of all, from the depth of my heart, I would like first of all to thank Dr. Vikramji for all his great effort in organizing such a major big event.
Voglio anche ringraziare tutto lo staff, tutte le persone che lavorano vicino al dottor Vikrant per fare questi meravigliosi eventi a livello planetario.
And also my thanks to all the staff that is so much engaged in working so hard in organizing such events in a global scale.
Chiedo scusa per la qualità della mia immagine, ma sto usando un cellulare perché sono in viaggio.
I also would like to say sorry to all of you for the quality of my video, as I am traveling at the moment, so I'm using my mobile phone.
Il tema che io oggi devo trattare riguarda le fobie.
The theme that I'm going to talk about today is about, the topic is about phobia.
La fobia è in genere una paura estrema, una paura irrazionale, sproporzionata per qualcosa che a volte non rappresenta neanche una reale minaccia.
Phobia is generally an extreme fear, this out of proportion, irrational fear towards something that sometimes that not even is a real threat.
Chi ne soffre, si legge sul sito dell'Istituto di Psicologia e Psicoterapia Comportamentale e Cognitiva,
reading on the website of the Institute of Psychology and Behavior and Cognitive Psychotherapy, we can read that those who suffer from it
e soprattutto soffre dal terrore all'idea di venire a contatto magari con un animale innocuo, con un ragno, con una lucertola.
This person is overwhelmed by a terror at the idea of coming into contact with, for instance, a harmless animal, such as a spider, a lizard.
Oppure di compiere un'azione che lo terrorizza, come ad esempio il claustrofobico, non riesce a prendere l'ascensore o la metropolitana.
Or even we can say that this person suffer out of being scared to lose control out of it. For instance, they have an irrational fear of taking the lift or claustrophobic people.
Sì, le persone che soffrono di fobia in linea di massima si rendono conto dell'irrazionalità della propria paura.
The people who suffer from phobias, we can say that in principle they realize the irrationality of their fear.
Ma non riescono a controllarla, non sanno come iniziare un vero percorso di guarigione che li aiuti a ritornare alla realtà.
But they are unable to control it. they don't know how to start a real healing path that will help them to return to the reality.
L'ansia da fobia si esprime con sintomi anche fisiologici come tachicardia, vertigini, extrasistole.
The phobia anxiety is also expressed with some psychological symptoms, such as tachycardia, dizziness, extrasystole.
A volte anche disturbi gastrici e urinari, nausea, diarrea, senso di soffocamento, rossore, sudorazione eccessiva, tremito, spossatezza, eccetera.
And also sometimes with gastric and urinary disorders, nausea, diarrhea, redness, excessive sweating, trembling, exhaustion, and so on.
E con la paura, anche se non è basata sul reale, si vive davvero male.
And being with fear, even if it is not based on reality, we're living really in a bad way.
Ebbene, la domanda è: si potrebbe guarire da questo disturbo?
So now the question is it possible to cure this disorder?
Come sempre, la guarigione può iniziare innanzitutto dall'accettazione di sé e si basa sul risveglio della consapevolezza, come sempre.
Well, as usual, we have to say that healing, first of all, starts with self-acceptance, and it is based on the awakening of the awareness.
Quindi anche sulla capacità di ascoltarsi, sravana, di contemplare senza identificarsi nell'oggetto dell'osservazione.
And also it is based on the ability to listen to oneself, to do shravana, to contemplate without identifying oneself with the object of observation.
Ripeto, la guarigione inizia dal risveglio della consapevolezza e dall'accettazione.
I repeat once again, the healing process begins with the awakening and of the awareness and its acceptance.
Accettandosi, si impara ad essere clementi verso le proprie fragilità.
By accepting oneself, we learn how to be aware, to accept towards our own fragility.
Dunque, ascoltarsi. E cosa meglio della meditazione può aiutarci in questo percorso?
So the base is to listen. And what is better than meditation to help us in this path?
Durante la pratica della meditazione si apprende a vivere nel presente e nel reale.
During the practice of meditation, we learn how to live in the present and in the real life.
Le vie orientali sono impegnate da anni nel tentativo di riportare l'uomo nel presente, proponendone la sperimentazione nella coscienza.
The Eastern path has always been engaged for many years in the attempt to bring man back to the present by proposing experimentation in consciousness.
Tra tutte le pratiche, quella considerata più produttiva dalla maggior parte dei maestri è quella che sviluppa il distacco, vairagya.
Among the many practices, the masters, they consider the most productive way the one that develops vairagya, which is the detachment.
Questa pratica, che promuove la capacità di contemplare il proprio mentale senza venirne coinvolti, è reputata la via della conoscenza ed è anche la via della guarigione.
This practice that promotes the ability to contemplate one's own mind without getting involved into it, it has been considered the way of knowledge and then the way of healing.
Dovremmo, proprio per essere realisti, sempre nella vita, mantenere sveglio e vigile quel testimone, quello spettatore. Sakshi.
So then, in order to stay realistic, we should always in life keep awake and in alert that witness, that viewer, that Sakshin,
che ci consente attraverso il distacco di valutare meglio i fatti nei quali la vita ci può coinvolgere.
which allows us through detachment to get better evaluated the fact in which life is going to involve us.
La qualità di spettatore permette all'uomo di poter meglio valutare anche il suo comportamento e quindi di evolvere e migliorare.
The quality of being able to be the spectator allows the human being to be able to better evaluate his own behavior and therefore to evolve and improve.
La meditazione è dunque il mezzo che può, attraverso questo testimone, riportarci nel presente.
And then meditation is the mean that can bring us back to the present through the development of this witness.
Oltre ad essere naturalmente il mezzo più idoneo che ci porta a conoscere l'unica realtà, il nostro sé.
In addition of being the most suitable means that lead us to know the only reality, ourselves.
Quella parte di noi che abbiamo in comune con tutta la manifestazione, definita dai maestri e dai testi sacri come unica realtà.
That part of us that we have in common with the whole manifestation, defined by the masters and the sacred texts as the only reality.
Poiché, come dico sempre, tutto il resto è impermanente e soprattutto non ci appartiene.
Since, as I always say, everything else is impermanent, and above all, nothing really belongs to us.
E quindi vi esorto, praticate la meditazione. Essa ci porta verso swastha, la salute e il nostro sé.
So I really pray each and all of you to practice meditation, as through meditation we are led towards swastha, being in the self, the real health.
Grazie per avermi ascoltato e grazie ancora a tutte quelle persone che lavorano per unire nella diversità l'intera umanità, l'intero pianeta.
I first of all would like to thank each and all of you for having listened to me till here. And I also would like to thank all the people that are so much engaged in working in bringing one reality, the quality of unity in diversity.
Namaste to all.
Namaste.
Swamiji. Namaste, Swamiji. Thank you very much Thank you, Emilia Deviji. And I'm sure that the audience who are watching us will be greatly benefited. How you explain that in order to deal with this irrational fear called phobia, we need to start with self acceptance, accept our own fragility. And then you mentioned about to contemplate with observation without getting attached. With that, we will get to know what is permanent and what is temporary in life. And you also mentioned the importance of vairagya, being away from whatever is temperament. I especially loved the way you said that finally we end up realizing that everything is impermanent and nothing belongs to us. And when nothing belongs to us, why to fear? When there are no fear, there are no phobias. That's amazing, Swamiji. What could be a better start than starting the CET event with Honorable Swamiji? You. Thank you very much. Thank you, Amelia ji, for being wonderful in translation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Vikramji.
Thank you.
I humbly thanks Swami Suryananda ji for teaching us and giving us useful tips. Thank you very much, Swami ji. On behalf of United Consciousness, I feel delighted to welcome Ms. Anna Gelovukova. She's founder and chairman of Slovak Indian Friendship Society and coordinator of the projects. As director of Mental Health Center in Liptov, Jakobovany, she has been leading training for the psychophysical and psychospiritual awareness. She has developed the relaxation and stress management training methods. She has been running yoga courses in many towns in Czechoslovakia since last 52 years. Dr. Anna is also a chairman of Slovak Anti-Poverty Network and executive coordinator, European Anti-Poverty Network in Brussels. She's a co-founder and chairman of Parliament World Religious Slovakia.
Dear masters, dear friends, dear organizer, as Dr. Vikramji, I am very happy that I can share with you some of my spiritual experiences and wisdom, and that we can continue every year to know each other better and together help develop mental and spiritual dimension of our personality. As you know, I am from previous Czechoslovakia, totalitarian atheistic regime. And as you know, I was born as a child of atheism, materialism. But at the age of 17, I recognized reading spiritual book that God exists. And since that time, consciously, I became involved to develop my spiritual dimension of personality, to reach enlightenment, to know self-knowledge. But because I had chance to dedicate my study of spirituality for child and children, youth, so I could recognize that not only myself, but also other children, they have spiritual experiences very small age. For example, Dr. Raymond Moody, our friend who studied near-death experiences, he recognized, and our doctors also in Slovakia, that children also can have near-death experience. Some are so small they can't describe it, but they can paint, and they painted tunnel at the end of tunnel light. So we recognize also that some children have also other spiritual experiences. For example, myself, when I was 7-8 years old, usually when I went to the bed, and it was some period of my life, And before sleeping, I put myself question, what will be with me after this? And immediately I settled in some another universal cosmic dimension, feeling as some other planet. And I was very happy and joyful in this new place. So later, when I became a member of Montreal group near United Nations, and I met very much spiritual leaders since 1988, I recognized such spiritual experiences have also other people, not only myself, other children. And some children garden also in my country. But first I met such psychologists in United States. They have programs and games for small children in kindergarten focused on development the spiritual dimension of personality through games and visualizations. That small children, they prefer play a game in subgroups with closest friends. And there are several subgroups in class. But when we play with them game, for example, with ball, something similar as volleyball, and we instruct them that when they play with ball and send ball to other friend, to other child, ball full of love, ball full of positive energy, joy, that will be good to send this ball also to other subgroup. And after such games and visualizations, slowly children remove walls between subgroups and create one whole. And we feel that they are able, open heart, spread consciousness, small age, children garden, and also open heart to other children from other subgroups and be oneness, be whole. Later, children, they are able, has also some spiritual experiences from previous lives. It happened also to me that when I was 9 years old, that time His Holiness Dalai Lama left as a refugee Tibet to India. That time we had no TV. My parents listened to news, only radio news. But at that age, I was not interested in the news, to listen radio news. But I observed, or I heard that 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet, as a refugee, left Tibet for India. And till today, I remember this news. I was very strong touched. I didn't understand at the age of 9 why, but I understood that it is very important for me that I knew this news, that I heard such name. Later, I met many times His Holiness Dalai Lama personally. I passed through his spiritual exercising and training, and we invited our society, also His Holiness, to Slovakia. And so later I also recognize that I had dreams about, in my childhood, about other Indian masters. And when I first time visited India, I had chance to meet them. Of course, there is many other children which are able to remember previous lives, and very important people who could help them, as Master Suryananda told, that we should know each other. So we have this inner life, we have this spiritual life, but it is not easy for children and young people today that they have enough possibility to develop this spiritual dimension of personality. Why? Because we live in secularism, and secularistic society on the West, it is divided that spiritual inner life we should practice at home or in the church, in the monasteries, but daily we are orientated for worldly life. And there is great imbalance between worldly life and between spiritual life. And we are more focused outside, not for self-knowledge, self-reflection. And we see results that today there is great problem even understand what means spiritual health. As we know, World Health Organization definition of health, there is harmony on physical, social, and mental level, but not on spiritual level. World Health Organization don't respect till today spiritual health. So it is very important that we focus also on this area, how to develop this spiritual dimension of personality, especially beginning with the children and young people. Very good is law of karma. And I am very happy that Dr. Vikramji, he will speak about law of karma and spirituality. And I'm really looking forward because in my life, many children, especially hockey players, because I practiced yoga with hockey players and deep relaxation. And also one great star, Czechoslovak hockey player Jágr, who was great star also in NHL, American Hockey League. He told that from childhood, he recognized law of karma. In my country, it is called law of action and reaction, because as child, he was tall and strong, and he injured one hockey player. And immediately it happened that he had an accident and injured himself, and he understood what I am doing to others. It returned to me the same. If I harm other, I will be harmed also. And he finished with aggressive play, and he became later Buddhist. The same was with my son at the age of 8-10 years. Also, he told he will not harm others because immediately he recognized it returned to him and other children also. There is very important that we are not fearful, not only from anything, but also from other religions and other spiritual teachings. For example, my friend, she is also yoga teacher and also teacher at church school, because after fall down totalitarian regime, there are also church schools and universities based on Christianity. And early morning, when they begin school, they have prayer, Christian prayer to Jesus Christ, Father, Mother Mary. And she used to first tell children, please keep back straight, concentrate on your breathing process, be relaxed. And when whole body is relaxed, then she instructed them, and now you can pray. And usually once monthly, director coming to school, and he asked children, or to class, asked children what you like. And one girl told him, I like prayer with yoga. So he asked to practice such kind of prayer, and he was very happy, and other classes and other teachers also learned this way of prayer. I would like to thank very much again that we can together develop our spiritual dimension, and mental and spiritual development also to do, because usually we are not focused at schools on we are focused on aparavidya, in knowledge, informations which are measurable, but not paravidya, this higher information. And spiritual development belongs among this kind of development that it is not based on formal education. It is not so easy to learn spiritual and have spiritual experiences as we learn languages or we learn mathematics, but it is more formal and informal, non-formal and informal education. So there is great work before us, and thank you very much that you are so active, and looking forward other speeches and hold today's together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna-Ji. Our regards to Slovakia and the people there. A very important topic you spoke, and I like the way you mentioned the book God Exists, which you read at the age of 17 years. And then you mentioned that games and visualizations can be very important methods through which we can connect kids and children to spirituality. One thing that I never noticed, and probably you brought into our notice, is in the definition of health of WHO, they talk about physical, mental, and social health, social well-being. They don't include spiritual well-being in that. That's very path-breaking thing that you said. I'm sure that WHO very soon will also ponder upon including this also, because spiritualism, as you said, is paravidya. Thank you very much for your blessings to us. Thank you.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Ms. Anna Gelovikova coming onto the platform of United Consciousness. Thank you so much. Mr. Jedranko Maklik from Croatia. He is Yogacharya, yoga and Ayurvedic therapist, teacher of transcendental meditation and Maharishi's Vedic science. Manoshadi Bhishagacharya, a herbal scientist, president of Institute of Yoga and Ayurveda. He teaches yoga in Europe, America, India and China. He gained knowledge about yoga from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi A.G. Mohan, direct disciple of Shri T. Krishnacharya, Maharishi Swami Devmurti Yogacharya, Dr. Mukund Bhole. He wrote 6 books about yoga. Also, he has experience with the application of yoga and Ayurveda to sports, tennis, football, driver, judo, volleyball, etc. For teaching yoga, Jedranko is cooperating with Maharishi Academy for Vedashiv Craft, Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga, India, Bharatiya Vidyapeeth Deemed University, European Yoga Federation, and World Movement for Yoga and Ayurveda.
So, dear friends, which you are participating on this conference, I would like to share some of my knowledge related to the spirituality and the thoughts, the thinking process, how it is related. So we know that spirituality, it's very highly ranked level of the aim of our life, to live the spiritual life. And what does it mean in that sense? So in that way, we can take recourse to the ancient science of yoga, because there is nothing new under the sun. So there is already knowledge there, which was revealed by the rishis, maharishis, about the aim of life, about spirituality, and how to live spirituality in our life. And one great Maharishi, Patanjali, he explained that very clearly what is spirituality, the spirit or consciousness. When we come to that value, and he says, yoga chitta vritti nirodha, so different thoughts. If we relate spirituality to the thinking, so all kind of thoughts are in that category of the vrittis, or they are some kind of our content of our field of our individual consciousness, of our chitta. And the life of chitta, when it becomes spiritual, or where it is materialistic more, or our individual life, when it becomes spiritual or materialistic, Patanjali says, vritti, so yoga chitta vritti nirodha. So when you achieve the state of nirodha, the state beyond thinking, then this is the state of pure spirituality. So this is relation of the spirituality and the thinking and the thoughts. So the spirituality is beyond thoughts, the pure field of spirituality. Tada drashtuh svarupe avasthana, then the seer is established in his true nature, which is the state of the pure spirituality. So in that sense, we need to realize and recognize the true meaning of spirituality, which is different than what commonly we are thinking, that this is related with some specific way of life. So the spirituality is not marked by any specific way of life, whether you are living alone as a hermit or as a monk or a recluse, or you are living in the society as a family person, doesn't mean that you are a spiritual person. Or whatever cloth you are wearing, whatever is your outer appearance, doesn't mean that you are a spiritual person. So this is what Lord Krishna says to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna is asking Lord Krishna, what is the sign of a true spiritual person or enlightened person? This is the inner condition in which you realize your true nature, that that your essential nature is that field of universal consciousness, the source of all, which is the source of all vrittis, we can say, which is beyond the vrittis. It has its own vrittis. Even it is a universal pure consciousness, it has its own vrittis because it is conscious of itself. And it has self-referral vrittis, which are those vrittis of pure consciousness are the unmanifest thinking of pure consciousness, which is fully in accord with all the total intelligence and the nature of that pure consciousness, which is Satchit Ananda. So those vrittis of the state of pure consciousness are expressed in the values of Yama, Niyama, and all the aspects of the teaching of the Vedas and yoga and all other aspects. So these are the vrittis of the state of pure consciousness, when pure consciousness is conscious of itself. In that sense, the rishis cognized those vrittis of the state of pure consciousness, which Karma Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa is elaborating after the experiencing the state of yoga. When you experience the state of yoga or samadhi, then in samadhi you find the principles of Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, that self-referral activity, internal activity, which are the vrittis of the state of pure consciousness. And they are expressed as the sounds of the Veda. And they have their own meaning. As in yoga, we have the basic qualities of that state of Satchit Ananda expressed in the qualities of Yama and Niyamas. So we can say those vrittis, those thoughts or thinking, these are unmanifest thoughts, but still they are there, are spiritual thoughts. They belong to spirituality because they are completely in tune with the nature of the source of life, which is the bliss consciousness. And this is the highest approach to spirituality, is to know your own self, to realize tada drashtuk svarupe avasthanam, our true nature. Then the thinking, our thinking in our daily life, whatever we are doing, doesn't matter, will become in accord with the principles of Yama and Niyama. And this is the expression of spirituality in our everyday life. When we have such kind of thinking and the thoughts to support others, not to do violence to anybody, not to cheat anybody, not to steal from anybody, living purity of life, living life devoted with a surrender to that cosmic intelligence which guides the life of the whole universe, to the Ishvara, then this becomes natural consequence. And we are living spiritual life. But in the case, if we are not able to have that experience of tada drashtuk svarupe avasthanam, and we are just caught up in different thinkings, and we don't know our true nature, and we are in the state of vritti sarupyam, it means that we are identified with the thoughts. We are not anymore self-referral, having experience, but object referral in relation to the different objects in the form of different thoughts. Then we are not anymore in that pure spiritual state. Then, depending on the nature of the thoughts, we become influenced by the nature of those thoughts and those vrittis. And Patanjali says there are basically 5 kinds of vrittis related to our different experiences in the waking state of consciousness, dreaming or sleeping, or imagining or vikalpa, or so the knowledge can be of the proper value, improper value, and many different kind of thoughts, understandings we can have. These are all different kind of the vrittis. And some can be klishta, some aklishta. Some British can be klishta, means they are creating discomfort and or the pain, the suffering, dukkha. And klishta, aklishta is resulting in sukha. The kha is the central part of the wheel, kha, and where you put the axis to that central part of the wheel, which is then making wheel to rotate. And do means not well fixed, so that the axis is not well fixed with the center of the wheel, and then there is tearing and all kind of problem for the wheel rotation and causing suffering. So the dukkha means not being well fixed, and sukha means being well fixed. And who is fixing with what? So the different kind of thoughts which are not well fixed with the principles of yama or niyama, they belong to the klishta category and creating dukkha. And those kind of our thinking or thoughts which are well fixed and in accord with the principles of yama and niyama, they are creating sukha and expansion of consciousness and joy in life and positive values. And this is the spiritual life in relation to that kind of thinking. So if our thoughts are in accordance with the principles of yama and niyama, then we are living spiritual life on the level of the thinking, which is the basis of our speaking and doing. So then we can say there is that kind of relation of living spiritual. But if in that case we are not having such thoughts, but we have different thoughts which are klishta category, and they are explained, Patanjali explains in the second chapter about kleshas, which are based on the kleshas, the thoughts which are based on the kleshas, like avidya, ignorance, asmita, that ego, and raga, the craving, desiring, and dvesha, repulsion or hatred, and abhinivesha, the fear for life, the urge of survival. So in that sense, if those kind of thoughts are there, then how to live spiritual life? Patanjali says, pratipaksha bhavanam, vitarka badhane pratipaksha bhavanam. If you become aware of such thoughts in your consciousness, then you should think which are the thoughts which are opposite to the principles of yama niyama. Then you should, by your will, think the opposite thoughts. You should turn in your consciousness immediately to recall the principles of yama and niyama to which those thoughts are opposite, and then cherish the value of yama niyama in your thinking in that relation, in that situation. And this is creating transformation of your consciousness into the spiritual value. So this is then living spirituality in the practical life, everyday life. So I think if there is some more time, or I I need to conclude about 15 minutes.
Jadrankoji.
I try
Yes,
to make it short,
Yes.
basic about spirituality and thinking.
Jadrankoji, thank you. Thank you very much. I was sincerely listening to your discourse, and as you put it from Patanjali Yoga Sutra Chittasya Vritti Nirodha, you mentioned about how Lord Krishna also says that your true nature is universal consciousness. You mentioned if you follow yam and niyamas, then the thoughts will be aklishta, and otherwise it will be vratti, swarup state, as you mentioned. You also rightly translated it in terms of self referral or the object referral. And as a remedy, you mentioned about the importance of pratipaksha bhavana. I'm sure that audience will develop this pratipaksha bhavana whenever they get klishta thoughts, and we will follow yamas and niyamas to avoid kleshas in life and gradually going to higher limbs of Yoga Sutra. Highly blessed with your presence, Jedrankoji. Thank you very much for all the love and affection and your
Thank
presence.
you very much, everybody. Namaste.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Mr. Jedranko Meklik for coming onto the platform of United Consciousness. Thank you so much. I'm feeling grateful to welcome our next guest who is spraying love in all directions and awakening people for realizing the true meaning of inner peace. She is Ms. Amy Bless You, Mahamandleshwar Pandit Yoga Charani Swami Gayatri Devi. She's a Yoga Paripurna School Master and UPF Ambassador for Peace recognized by UN, received honorary doctorate by Techno India University and elected as advisor of this university. In 2010, she received the F. Gandhi Simplicity Award at the Mahatma Gandhi Memorial in New Delhi, India. Amy Bless You is patron of the Women International Network Award for Peace and Non-Violence and member forever of the World Peace Development and Research Foundation India. In Italy, she is member of Seta Mondo Association Board of Directors, Milan Department of Culture and contact person for the Rights and Equal Opportunity section. She is founder and spiritual guide in Milan of Suryanagra Ashram, president of the World Community of IC and TD of CUI Diva, official Italian Confederation of Yoga and the International Yoga Confederation of Delhi. Co-founder and ambassador of the World Movement of Yoga and Ayurveda. During the last 20 years, she has published her experiences in 12 books. So please welcome Ms. Amy Bless You.
Namaste. I thank Dr. Vikramji for this event. I am very honored to be here with all of you. Well, today I will speak about spirituality and dealing with fear. The best gift of all gifts is not to have fear. The awareness of being part of a whole, of a one that has no second, allows us to face everything without fear. Tolerance, respect, compassion for all the creation. It is the tool that through spirituality allowed us to put a foundation for a life free from any fear. In practice, abhyasa, the constant effort are necessary at least till get a strong will and feeling our whole being till it becomes an instrument for understand the here and now. Vairagya, the inner detachment, go over the level of any material experience to get the absolute freedom. In order to understand the whole, we must be one with mind, body, and spirit. After becoming aware of the mind system, let's take into consideration the fear itself, which often starts from how our body react to external and internal stimulation. The emotions and everything that moves our emotional and spiritual sphere. It seems that human beings have always needed to fear something. As a spider builds its webs, humans also build their own one, invented it, and then they get trapped in it. The greatest power is the fear, or better, is the power that uses the fear. That makes us weak, fragile, and easily attacked from the outside. Fear of death is the most powerful fear. And then there are sub-fears that losing prestige, status, person, economic security, and so on. Increase the ability to face fear and don't put our own life on the hand of someone that claims to be competent, like doctors, politicians, priests, teachers, and so on. Many are afraid of the power people, but who gave the power to those people? We, of course. It is one fear that allows it, or weakness, which doesn't act as a barrier to the lack of respect or prevarication. Indeed, it is not only one's own insecurity that gives power to the others. Mostly it is our fears. Constant inner practice abhyasa and the detachment or no desire, vairagya, are two very important means of eliminating fears. In order to understand the whole, we must be one with mind, body, and spirit. So, with abhyasa, the continuity in the practice repetition, then conscience can wake up. And the vairagya, the inner detachment, which arises the importance of any experience, makes that everyone live with a profound serenity and calm. Having become aware of the mind system, let us now consider the fear itself. The greatest danger is don't trust on oneself and own ability to face the fear. So the person put itself in the hand to pseudo-experts. It is own insecurity that creates in others security, arrogance, and prevarication. Fear, bhaya, are the fruits of a weakness, but also of ignorance that don't know to be part of the world. The freedom from fear belongs only to whom leads a pure life. But what does a pure life mean? First, we evaluated how and when we begin to have fears. Human beings aren't always fair to the animals, elements, nature, people, Mother Earth. And often they also feed on being belonging to its own kingdom, the animal kingdom, which have the same our energies, components, emotions, and the same life systems. Living beings that are killed without respect and compassion. That's why those who feed on them feels fear. compassion and respect are two fundamental words today unusual. Without respect, humanity, on what is still left of humanity, will have not future. Another weakness is not realizing the great power that in our school is called the kingdom of possibility. At least there you don't have to say, I will never, I cannot make it, or it is not possible, and so on. In the kingdom of possibility, we will put all our energy into making it possible. So let us face the knowledge of yoga without fears and let ourselves flow. Nothing bad comes from knowledge. It is like to change a point of view. It is getting out of archetypes built in the last time. Really, I'd like and hope to bring present yoga back to the sacredness of the origins, evolved and adapted to today's world, but at the same time, saving its substance, its origins, with great respect, given the big result obtained with this profound discipline. A science which allows the human being to find within himself the strength, determination, purity, integrity of the ancient riches. The tyrants, the government, the power religions have always kept the people in ignorance because an educated person asks questions that the ignorant cannot do. Just as those who never seen the sun cannot feel the missing, who instead know the sun imprisoned in the cave will miss it immensely and they will rebel. Therefore, a person with experience, with knowledge and education will not be easily tamed. In fact, nations as Italy have preferred to increase funds for arms and remove funds for school. It's right, this? No. But it is done. Plato, Greek the philosopher, said, the masterpiece of injustice is to make it seem right without being. So we must always fear the fear that clouds the mind. Better to be afraid of fears and consolidate the courage. Many powerful people think that possessing gives power, but the more things they possess, the more they feel afraid to lose. Only fools want to own. So let's get free from owning, and everything will belong to us because we will belong to the world. Now a mantra against fear. Trayambakam yajamahe sugantim pushtivardhanam urvarukamiva vandana mrityormukshiyamamritate Om Trayambakam yajamahe sugantim pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva bandhana mrityormukshyamamritate. Om Trayambakam yajamahe Sugandhim pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva bandhana mrityormukshyamamritate. Om Shanti 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 Om Hari Om Tat Sat.
Hari Om Tat Sat, MEG. Thank you very much, respected MEG, for taking us through understanding how to deal with fear. As you mentioned that Vairagya and Abhyas are the two important means for fear removal. I'm sure it will benefit the audience. You also mentioned that one who leads a pure life has less fear. So I'm sure that the blessings and the message that you gave must have reached to our audience, and it will help them to deal with their own fears in life. Thank you very much.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Ms. Emmy Blessio for sharing her views. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Andrei Lovanov is one of the founders and leaders of the yoga community in Russia. Yoga master with a unique path and experience, who started his yoga practice and research in Soviet time when yoga and other oriental practices were forbidden. Andrei's school became the first official yoga school in USSR and Russia in 1983. He found a way to legalize yoga in Nizhny Novgorod region and played an important part in making yoga legal all over the country. In 1989, he founded the first yoga teachers training school in Russia, which in 2002 became the Academy of Traditional Systems of Healthcare and Human Development and got the license from Ministry of Education for yoga teachers training. He also was the first in Russia to work out yoga therapy educational courses, which were included in the curriculum in foremost medical higher education institutions. Vast experience in yoga, ancient and modern medicine, studying different philosophical and scientific systems enabled him to create a unique multi-level system called Yoga Lamp. It is based on the principles of classical yoga Patanjali, research of scientists, innovators, and original technologies and practices worked out by Andrei himself. The object of Yoga Lamp is to help modern human to govern himself and his own life, to give him effective technologies for self-exploration, self-healing, and self-development, which make him free and independent from different manipulators, political, ideological, commercial, to develop ecological consciousness, which helps us to overcome ecological crisis and save the planet. Welcome, Andrei ji.
Намасте.
Намасте.
Я рад снова быть с вами и участвовать в этом событии.
I'm glad to be here with you again and participate in this event.
Тема моего сегодняшнего размышления – духовность и печаль.
The topic of my lecture, of my reflection today is spirituality and dealing with sadness.
Сопоставить эти состояния можно лишь поняв, что они такое.
Before we correlate these two states, we need to understand what we mean by these words, spirituality and sadness.
Я рассматриваю духовность как состояние сознания, вобравшее в себя множество вселенной, все разнообразие мироздания.
In my understanding, spirituality is a state of consciousness which embraces multiplicity of the universe, all the variety of creation.
Такое сознание пребывает в единстве без разделения, отрицания и сожаления.
Such consciousness stays in unity without separation, negation, or regret.
В нем присутствует полнота, гармония и порядок.
There's fullness, harmony, and order there.
Духовность – тонкий уровень сознания, который относится к истинной природе человека, к его душе, соединенной с единым духом Вселенной, из которого она вышла и к которому она принадлежит.
Spirituality represents subtle levels of consciousness related to human's true nature, to his soul, which is connected with universal spirit, where it comes from and belongs to.
Печаль – одно из негативных состояний, возникающих у незрелого сознания, оно связано с отрицанием какой-то части жизни.
Sadness is one of negative states inherent to immature consciousness. It comes from negation of some parts of life.
Это личность, которая потеряла что-то, к чему была сильно привязана, и эта потеря отражается в состоянии печали.
This is about personality, which has lost something that it was strongly attached to, and this loss leads to sadness.
А личность – это грубый уровень сознания.
Personality represents gross levels of consciousness.
Личность, если это не развивающееся начало в человеке, стремится к отдельности и самоутверждению.
Personality, if it doesn't develop, tends to separation and self-affirmation.
И на этом поприще она теряет связь с душой и вселенским духом.
And it loses connection with the soul and universal spirit.
Поэтому личность становится уязвимой для всевозможных потерь, утрат, нереализованности и впадает в грусть, печаль и беспросветную тоску.
Therefore, personality becomes vulnerable for such states like sadness, bereavements and failures and different losses, and falls into despair and melancholy.
Истинно духовный человек не погружается в такие эмоциональные состояния, так как его сознание всегда полно в любых ситуациях, несмотря на обстоятельства, возникающие в его жизни.
Truly spiritual man doesn't dive into such emotional states because his consciousness is always full and in any situation in spite of circumstances in his life.
Эта духовная мудрость отражена в мантре Пурнамада Пурнамидам.
This spiritual wisdom is reflected in mantra Purnamada Purnamidam.
Смысл ее в том, что сколько ни бери из полноты, она всегда остается полной.
However much we take from fullness, it always remains full. This is the sense of this mantra.
Духовность проявляется в состоянии радости, блаженства, любви и творит радостную жизнь.
Spirituality manifests in state of joy, bliss, love, and creates a joyful life.
Печаль, тоска гложет сердце и закрывает состояние радости в человеке.
Sadness eats away at one's heart and closes the state of joy.
Человек, находящийся в печали и страдании, закрыт от единства мироздания.
A person overwhelmed with sadness and sufferings has no access to the unity of creation.
Сознание, погруженное в печаль, творит унылую и печальную жизнь, которая не может быть свободной и творческой.
Consciousness plugged into sadness creates a sad and bleak life, which can't be free and creative.
Это понимание может создать в человеке импульс, потребность к изменению своего состояния и поиску духовного единения.
This understanding can give a person an impulse, a motivation to change his or her state and seek for spiritual unity.
И порой, испив чашу печали, человек способен вернуть себе состояние необусловленной радости, полноты, счастья и своей связи с мирозданием.
Sometimes, having drunk up the cup of sadness and sorrow, a person can restore the state of unconditional joy, fullness, happiness, and connection with the universe.
Человек, погруженный в печаль, через фильтр этого состояния не может увидеть свет истины.
It is impossible to see the light of truth through the filter of sadness.
Поэтому важно найти выход из него, так как оно является препятствием для пробуждения духа.
That's why it's important to find a way out of the state, because this state is an obstacle to spiritual awakening.
Выход из этого состояния один – устремление к духовному началу.
And there is only one way out of the state, seeking for spiritual principle.
Для этого необходимо осознать ограничение отдельности личности и состояние, которое она переживает.
For this purpose, it is important to realize limitations of personality, its separateness, and the states which our personality experiences.
Обычно, когда человек пережил разнообразный опыт, в том числе и негативный, он может выйти на духовный путь к единству мироздания, полноте, радости, блаженству, вселенской любви.
Usually, after a man experienced different states, different experiences, including negative experience and negative situations, he becomes able to enter the spiritual path, leading to the unity of creation, love, joy, and bliss.
И тогда он будет способен осознать, что печаль принадлежит только ограниченной личности, а не душе с ее бессмертием и безграничными возможностями объять всю Вселенную.
And then he can realize that sadness belongs only to the limited personality, not to his soul, with its immortality and limitless possibilities and its ability to embrace the entire universe.
Знание того, что наша истинная природа не испытывает печали, помогает выйти из этого состояния.
The knowledge about our true nature, which doesn't experience sadness, helps us to come out of this emotional state.
Чтобы справиться с печалью, необходимо иметь это знание и освоить навыки управления психическими функциями, вниманием, волей, верой.
To cope with sadness, it is necessary to have this knowledge and also to have skills to control our psychomental functions, attention, will, and faith.
Они помогают различать состояние сознания, принадлежащие личности, такие как грусть, печаль, тоска, и растождествиться с ними.
This knowledge and these skills help us to see that we are connected with the states and disconnect with them.
Таким образом, можно постепенно научиться контролировать свои структуры и прежде всего психоментальные и управлять своей жизнью.
In this way, we can learn how to control our mental structures and how to manage our life.
Это то, чему учит йога как система саморазвития.
This is what yoga, as a system for human development, teaches.
Печаль может привести человека к унынию, которое в христианской религии считается одним из грехов, так как отрицает все проявления жизни.
Sadness can lead to despondency, which, for instance, in Christianity considered to be a sin, because it negates all manifestations of life.
Расскажу историю одного моего хорошего знакомого, йога.
I'll tell you a story about a friend of mine, a yogi.
Это случилось в советский период.
The events took place in Soviet Union times.
В одном из городов России жил молодой человек, назовем его Борис.
In one of the cities in Russia, a young man lived. His name was Boris.
Он занимался спортом, тяжелой атлетикой.
He was a sportsman and did the heavy lifting.
И в этом был смысл его жизни.
And this was the sense of his life.
Через спорт он самоутверждался, самореализовывался.
Sport was his way for self-realization and self-affirmation.
И вдруг все это потерял вместе со здоровьем.
And suddenly he lost it all, and also he lost his health.
Врачи сказали, что его организм сильно изношен, разбалансирован от чрезмерных нагрузок.
Doctors told him that his organism was exhausted and unbalanced because of extreme strain on physical body.
Он был сильно опечален этой новостью и впал в уныние, потерял смысл жизни, с которой он решил расстаться.
This news made him very sad, and he fell into despondency and lost the sense of life.
Для этого Борис уехал в Крым, где решил провести свои последние дни на природе.
and he decided to commit the suicide. And he went to the Crimea, the south of the country, to spend there his last days and stay in nature before he leaves this world.
На одной из прогулок он выбирал место, где мог бы покончить со своей жизнью, прыгнув со скалы.
Once he was having a walk, looking for a place where he could end his life, jumping off a cliff.
И неподалеку на лесной поляне увидел человека, который делал какие-то странные упражнения.
And suddenly he saw a man doing some strange exercises.
Борис это заинтересовало, и он подошел к этому человеку, который оказался йогом.
It made him curious, and he came closer to this man, and this man turned out to be a yogi.
И он открыл Борису иной смысл жизни.
And this man discovered a new sense of life to Boris.
Эта встреча полностью изменила его жизнь.
And this meeting completely changed Boris' life.
Начав практиковать йогу, Борис быстро обрел здоровье, силу духа, стал мастером и учителем йоги и помогая многим людям встать на духовный путь.
He started to practice yoga, and he managed to restore his health quickly and obtained the strength of spirit, and became a yoga teacher and master, and helped a lot of people to find their spiritual path.
Вот такая история.
So this is a story.
Благодарю вас за то, что вы меня послушали. Надеюсь, что это было интересно и полезно.
Thank you for listening. I hope it was useful and interesting for you.
Namaste, Andreji. Namaste, Yulia. Thank you very much for blessing us and the audience about an important topic of sadness, which is a growing problem across the world. And as you made it very clear that using the Sanskrit shloka of Upanishads, Purnamada Purnamidam, that we are complete, and from whole, when whole is taken, still whole remains. So you also mentioned that this sadness belongs to the personality, not to the soul. And for that, we need to realize our true nature. And in order to realize our true nature, spirituality is really very much instrumental. Thank you very much, Andreji, for blessing us from Russia. And I'm sure it must have reached to the audience and will be reaching to the audience in time.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you, Yulia. Namaste.
Thank you.
On behalf of United Consciousness team, we would like to thank Andreji for sharing his views and experiences in the journey of yoga.
God stays very close to us for encouraging our spiritual progress and elevating our souls. To know about our true existence, to have more answers on spirituality and God, let's learn from our esteemed guests. Let's have a panel discussion on the topic spirituality and God. In the panel, we have with us Ms. Amra Kubert. She's graduated from the Faculty of Economics in Sarajevo, majoring in marketing, and she attended various training seminars on recreational sports, rehabilitation, and personal development. She is registered yoga teacher with Yoga Alliance. She teaches Reiki methods of natural healing, yoga, and meditation. She passes a passion and the great joy to her students while practicing and living yoga. This is a mission, and she feels rewarded while teaching and learning with her students. Our next guest, Ms. Amrita Magdala, whose love for nature and for Gaia, the earth and humanity represents, has moved Amrita into the exploration of consciousness. A journey that ongoingly opened towards unrealized possibilities, normally unimaginable to our current state of realization. Creating unity is finding love as the thread that unites all traditions, all relations, all beings on the earth. As the expression of her soul, she helps now the arising awareness through the arts in the form of music and art. Founder of the Voice of Gaia, a movement raising consciousness through music and art, inspiring love for Mother Earth and humanity. Our next panelist is Mr. Igor Onishchenko, CEO and founder of one of the leading construction company in Belarus. He spent 27 years in heartfulness meditation. group of heartfulness meditation organized by Day of Yoga starting from 2015. On behalf of United Consciousness, I welcome our next guest, Mr. Christoph Stay. He is a Polish citizen. He is doctorate in physical education and sports sciences and has been employed as an assistant professor at Jan Długosz University, Częstochowa in Poland since 2012. Earlier in his life, he worked for 20 years in various states in the United States. In last 15 years, he was in Silicon Valley, where he was employed as a senior software analyst in different companies known worldwide for introducing breakthrough technologies. He has been practicing yoga for about 40 years, as detailed in an interview he gave to Yoga International magazine, published in January 2006 issue. Under the title Yoga Behind the Iron Curtain, he has been to India more than 30 times. He has spent 10 years in India, where there he obtained 2 academic qualifications, graduating with the diploma in yoga education from Kaivalya Dhamma Institute and a master's degree in physical education from the Banaras Hindu University in Varanasi. Today's panel discussion will be moderated by Dr. Vikrant Singh Tobar, convener United Consciousness. Dr. Tobar is an acknowledged trainer, academician, scholar, writer, and a management consultant. He's a freelance trainer and served the cabinet ministers of state, MLAs, police officers, and tycoons of the business world. His aim and objective is universal brotherhood and happiness through harmonizing the knowledge from the ancient scriptures into our lives. So I welcome all our guests for panel discussion.
Namaste.
Welcome, friends. We acknowledge your presence, Amraji. We acknowledge your presence, dear Christoph ji. Amrita ji, namaste. Aigar ji, namaste.
Namaste,
Such a
Dr.
wonderful
Vikram.
morning.
Namaste.
And we welcome and acknowledge the presence of our honorable audience from different parts of the world. Friend, this event has also been supported by G20 and Civil 20 India. So I'm sure that people from different parts of the world will be benefited by the panel discussion today on spirituality and God. Even I'm looking forward to learn and listen from our experts here. So first question that obviously comes to the mind and is coming to the mind of many of our audiences: who is God? So I know it's a big question, and in Sanskrit they call it Ati Prashna, the question which is more than a question itself. So may I request Christoph ji to ignite the candle, and the first question goes to you, Christoph ji. Who is God?
Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Hopefully, yes. All right. Yes, so many sages and rishis, yogis, and all others try to express properly in words who is God, and perhaps the statement from Patanjali Yoga Sutras, Sat Chit Ananda, that best words in human language which brings some understanding who really God is. But I know that for most people, at least when I was beginning in yoga, I was really searching for an experience of God, because we can spend volumes talking about God and it will not bring us any closer. As you can know from the introduction, I'm in a very practical science of physical education. So connecting really psychosomatic aspects of a human being. So how to move from the known, what is known to us, it means from the gross level to the more subtle level, more psychic level. And through the grace of God, I was able to meet along the way amazing beings, human beings, but more godlike beings, men of power in India. It happened in India, and since that time I fell in love with India, and I went through, Kaivalya Dham through very regular rigorous academic education later on through Banaras Hindu University, but truly, really the men of God, what I would call them, or the great yogis, people who had the inner experience of what we call God, could bring me much, much closer. And it was definitely an inner experience which is so hard to express. It was an experience of absolutely total bliss. I remember my first samadhi as I experienced in London, near London in England in 1972, as I was listening to Ravi Shankar, Sri Ravi Shankar, a great musician, a sitar player, and it was a raga, meditational raga, which would last about hour and a half. Excuse me, only half an hour. And I fell in love. It was the first time after leaving communist Poland at that time, 72, as I was able to experience the uniqueness of Indian music, uniqueness of Indian sounds, instruments like sitar. And I never forget the experience as I was feeling. Actually, I wasn't listening to music. I became the music, and every cell of my body, as we have myriad of cells in our body, it was dancing in utmost joy to that amazing feeling. So that was the experience. That was God for me. That is my interpretation.
Thank you, Dr. Christoph. And I understand I asked you a difficult question, and he said that God is Satchit Anand, an experience where every cell of the body starts dancing, and then you feel probably you have relatively approached towards God from gross to subtle. He also mentioned that it's an inner experience. Yes, I understand this, that it is difficult to define. As somebody said, defining God is defying God. So let me ask Amrita ji. Amrita ji, in quick remarks, you have worked in nature. What is God? And let me add one more question. Where is God?
Well, dear Dr. Vikrant, thank you for having us all here. I never asked this question. The only question I asked once, and it was suggested, and I thought, why not? Is who am I? So I just sat and I asked, who am I? And it was beautiful what happened, because I truly, honestly, I asked myself, I want to ask this question, but I don't want to make anything up. So I really asked myself to just sit with it, open to it, and see what happens, but don't make anything up. I wanted it to be real, the answer. And what happened was incredible, because it continues to this day. It continues answering itself. It's an ongoing answer. And what happened, it was like I felt I was not separate from the question. The sensation was that the answer, it's everything, and we are part of that answer. So to where I would say, to who I would say, is the who separate from the it?
Nice.
Or from the that? And from the where, if the that and the who are not separate, or you don't find a separateness or a specific answer to that, then the where dissolves itself, because then there's no limitation to where.
Nice.
It's a beautiful exploration.
Thank you. So Amrita ji mentioned that for me, who is God is the question, who am I? And when I inquired into it, I found no separation. And I found that this question belongs to me and it belongs to God, because there is no separation between me and God. And this is where the exploration leads us to. Now we have Igerji also. Let me add one more facet to the question. I asked Christoph ji, who is God? And I asked Amrita ji, what is God? And now I'm asking you, where is God?
With each question, Dr. Vikramji, dear friends, it's becoming more and more interesting and more going in the deepness. It's for me, it's quite obvious that God is only in the heart. It's in every cell of our body, and the most important place where He's residing is the heart. And from the heart, it's going everything what is belongs to God, and what makes us also belongs to Him. And only through the heart we can come with some unity with Him. Only through the love and heart, it's the way to feel Him. It's the way to find Him. Because we can speak alone, and like Mr. Christoph said, only through experience we can know. It's not that somebody will tell who is God and so on, and another person will understand. Never happens in life. Only the interest can come. Only some interest can come in the mind, who is God, where He is, and only myself, only person himself can find the way, can find the God through practice, through different practice, through meditation, through yoga, through his life, through his service, and there is no other possibility.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. So Igerji mentioned that God, I asked him, where is God? He said, God is here. He said, every cell of our body is resonated by God. So now, friends, if you could notice, none of our expert mentioned any male or female God. None of our mentioned any God with an physical body or a person sitting somewhere managing the show. They said that God is here within us. Then the question comes automatically to Amraji is this: if God is this, what has been defined by our honorable guests here, why more and more people in the world are being atheist? Because if God resides in their own cell, in the heart, and if God is everywhere, then why people are being atheist? Don't they believe in what they don't believe in? So what is your reflection? You have been teaching hundreds of youth, thousands of people. So why number of growing population of atheists are there in the world?
Dr. Vikramji, very good question. By my experience with the people, usually in my country, actually, it's a problem because people are not satisfied with the religion views, with the religion rules. Because some religions are very dogmatic with strict rules, with the many punishment options in the rules if the rules are not followed. But modern man needs more than that, needs purpose of life, needs happiness and the joy, needs more without fear of punishment, needs a life without fear of punishment. So I think it is one of the main reasons why the number of atheists is growing today. Usually when they try yoga, they change, so they stop to be atheists. So I think yoga is a very good option to be closer to God.
Nice. So she said that probably people are not refusing the God, they are refusing a dogmatic concept of God that has
Yes.
been given to them by religious rules. And she said that more and more people now don't approve of a ringmaster God, ready to punish you, ready with the rules and regulations like a headmaster of a school. They want something which can help them in knowing their purpose of life, bring joy to the life, and some significance to it. And for that, if this is the definition of God, more and more people will start believing in the God. And the one of the way is yoga and spiritualism. So I'll again ask Christoph ji. Christoph ji, spirituality and God, are they same or different? Let me
Well,
be more specific. Can I
yes.
be spiritual without believing in God?
This is one of the problems why more and more people are turning away from religion and spirituality, because in the past, I believe, religiare, the Roman word, religiare, meant pretty much what we say about yoga. That means connect something with something, connect human with something divine. So, in other words, there is that word union, like one of the meanings of yoga is union. And nowadays, you will see that spirituality is further and further away from religion, because religion has become too much of a political kind of approach to life. People don't search for divine experiences in religion anymore. They are looking for that in spirituality. Why so many young people, they have the right instinct. They are trying to find something deeper. Joseph Chilton Pierce, in The Bond of Power, fantastic book, recommend anyone to read it. He's analyzed things, and he said beautifully that at the age of 18 to 20 some years, we should experience something momentous, something divine, and everybody's looking for that. And yet the society is not allowing people. They don't recommend, any definite route. So basically, so many young people, they are searching for that in drugs, narcotics, in all kinds of wrong ways, instead of trying to find and look within. Our modern culture is without, look outside. And, God is to be found within. Someone said earlier, it is to be search, Igor, I think, search in the heart. But what heart? Which heart? The physical heart, emotional heart? Which heart? And beautifully, Ramana Maharishi, I'm sure you all know, or Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, great masters that I was able to meet. Nisargadatta Maharaj, he was so clear about it. You look within, and a little effort is needed. Most people, they like to get something for nothing. That's where the problem is, something for nothing. And here we need to do. But someone mentioned also this fantastic method of Advaita Vedanta. Who am I? Who am I? Do you know how potent this simple method is? You, in fact, don't need anything else. Just sit on your butt for 2 weeks alone. At the same time, maybe from 7:30, so you don't get up too early, in Brahma Muhurta. So you get your sleep, but get your mind tied up to the
Thank
search,
you.
real search. I
Thank
invite
you.
anyone to the journey.
So Krishnavji said that let the religion be there for the politicians and let the spirituality be there for the people, because religion has become more now there's politicized. And he said it's a within journey, and the journey is within the heart. And he also mentioned the physical heart or the emotional heart, because the definitions are different. As they say, you should have a big heart. But ask a medical doctor, he say big heart is a disease. So if your heart becomes big. So that's nicely said, Christoph-ji. And he also mentioned about who am I, self-inquiry of Raman Maharshi, and many of the great masters mentioned about. So Amrita-ji, you also mentioned that you started your inquiry with who am I? So if somebody does not believe in God at all, will this inquiry help that person? I say I am an atheist, I don't believe in God. Should I still go with this inquiry of who am I?
Well, in the moment that I asked this question, I was not a believer. In fact, I was really angry at life. In fact, I found out I was only angry at myself. If you ask anything honestly, and you open to understand that everybody, all truths are out there. You just need to become a scientist in a way, an experimenter. I really ask life if life is consciousness, because okay, we come from the Christian, we can say they tell us the knowledge is out there. They tell us everything is God. So if everything is God is everyone and is soul and is in all of us, it must be in you too. It must be everywhere. So it must be that. Then we go to the Hindus that they say all is Brahman, right? So then it all relates to a principle. And in that principle, again, is the inherent quality that it's everywhere. And it's an inherent quality that must be inside of you. And inherent means it has power on its own. You don't need to give it power to. So you ask really sincerely and wait enough. Have patience in the answers. Observe. Really, this is super important. Contemplate. Become a contemplator of how life is answering you. And contemplate on these answers, which is the happenings in your life. You get all the answers. Anyone then can become this, because if you are not as spiritual, you might be more open to be scientific.
So
it all is the same thing.
What, in one line, what answer did you get out of your self-inquiry on who am I? In one line, what answer did you get finally?
What do you mean, what answer?
You said that you also started inquiring inside yourself that who am I? So finally, what answer you got?
The answer was that it's still going on. The only answer I can summarize this is that I'm alive.
I'm alive or I am life?
Both is the same thing.
Okay. Thank you. So we have Igorji and Amritaji mentioned that even if you are angry, that can be a good trigger, because even Bhagavad Gita starts with Vishada Yoga, when you are upset. And when things are not going your way, probably you may go for the deeper meanings of life. She said, be a spiritual scientist, be a spiritual experimenter, and be honest and open in this self-inquiry. Igorji, when we start this self-inquiry, and the audience who are watching us from different parts of the world, what actionable tips would you like to give to our audience here? Because you said that God is in my heart, it is in every cell of my body. How to feel this actually? How to realize this? How to feel? How to experience, as Christoph-ji said? What are the executionable tips that people can start doing from now?
First of all, to start any practice. It can be heartfulness practice. It can be yoga. It can be any way. Because if you have somebody who is leading you, who is helping you, then you can find the way more quickly. First of all, to be open and to be very receptive to all what you get from inside. If you ask yourself, your heart, if you ask God, please show me, explain me, in any way, answer will be coming. We have to just to listen. Answer will be coming I don't know from where, from broadcast, from radio, somewhere, from the people. God who is inside always finds the answer from the gods who are outside. We are all connected. We are all helping to each other. And just go on the way and answer will come, and do any practice. Meditation is, I think, best way. Yoga is bringing you even deeper. Any religion, you speak that religion is more political, but if you go with open heart, if you go to the people who are really in this religion, sages, if you pray to them, you feel connection. They are still there. They are not disappeared. Life is going on, and all the heritage, what was created, it's everything is there. We are supported, but we are happy to be here and to get the support from all the sages, from all these ages, also from where really so much love and care is given to us. And even here, Dr. Vikranji, even here, it's also the same care given to everybody who is interested in some way. Yes.
So amazing points Igarji mentioned, and he said start practicing, but he said as a foundation, be open, be receptive, and listen. Whenever you ask questions, universe start answering it to you. And he said that you may like to practice heartfulness, yoga, but better to search for a master. The journey will be relatively easy. He also mentioned meditation. And one thing which I especially liked, he said that when God inside you asks questions, God outside you will also contribute in providing you the answers. And it reminds me of what Rumi said once, that your approach towards me is actually my approach towards you. So when we approach towards God, God also approach towards us. And when we say uh, this God's around, start contributing and making me realize the things.
And
Now,
Dr. Vikramji, you, if I can say, you are not saying the full truth about this. If you approach it, you have to state it much stronger. You make one step towards God, and He makes 10 steps towards you. That's the rule.
So Krishnavji said that the speed is faster than you can imagine even. One step towards my side will yield 10 steps. So now let me come back to Amraji. Amraji, quick tips to our audience. What should I do to realize the God within?
Well, I think for people who are not in yoga, like me before 10 years ago, I think nature is the easiest tip for connecting with God. It's very fast because in nature is pureness, and where we are just sitting in nature, that pure environment, we are already connecting with God. But of course, my opinion is that the faster and best tip is meditation and mindfulness, of course. So there is so many mantra, bhakti yoga, karma yoga. And in my country, we are usually called that chafe, because my country is a crossroad of west and east. And we are usually say that we are living by middle way, Buddha's middle way. So I think that life in the middle is the most important. There is no ego. There is no so many ambitions. There is no fears. I think it's the easiest way to find God and connect with God.
Thank you. Thank you. Lao Tse from China used to say, see in the nature. There is nobody in rush in the nature, but still thy work are done. And that's why probably all the masters got enlightenment when they reached to the nature.
Can I add something, Vikrant? Doctor? Hello, we lost Doctor. Oh, I don't
He
know.
leave us.
Well, Amra Kubat from
Yes.
Bosnia Herzegovina.
Okay.
I was just, if I can add something now, since you were
Yes,
away.
yes. I was about
I used to say like this: when everything fails, follow the instructions. You know, we have fantastic, great saints. Do we realize the greatness of great yogis who wrote Hatha Pradipika, Garanda Samhita, Patanjali, on and on, so many scriptures. We really need to follow them to the letter. And you live in a holy land of Ujjain, where greatest founder of our tradition, Matsyendranath, Samadhi shrine. We are getting his blessings. It is really alive. It is a place where you can go through catharsis when you apply yourself fully without any reservation, when your heart moves forward. But you cannot just do that mentally. If you do it mentally, you will go nowhere. Emotions, the whole being have to join, and it is guaranteed. I don't want to tell you because there are so many stories. We have no time for stories here, I heard. But so let's leave it at that. Faith, motivation, and you will get it. It is there. It has been proven for thousands of years.
Thank you, Christoph ji. Now, Amrita ji, for a quick. Christoph ji mentioned that follow even instructions. Shastras are made to make you cross your fears, and intellectual understanding is a different ball game. Go for experiential learning. Emotional understanding of that experience is very important. Direct experience. Amrita ji, quick tips on what should be done to realize the God within. Executionable, practical, one-liner tips, 2 tips.
Well, I agree a little bit with Dr. Christoph in this sense of follow. There is one simple question, and it's very easy.
Others have to keep the mic off. It is echoing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Go ahead, Amrita ji.
So it's what we could do is ask a simple question that is, what would love do? And we all have references of people we admire. Like maybe it's a Baba, right? The gurus, the masters. Maybe it's a master. Maybe it's an archetype of we haven't met, but it lives inside of us. So that inherent goodness is embodied in someone. It has a shape for us. So then ask you, what would he do, she do? Then the answer is always inside of us, because we are that inherent goodness inside. If you follow that, you can't go wrong. But you really need to follow that. Sometimes we get sneaky. We want the easy way out. So it's like, okay, we are good in these occasions, but in this occasion that suits me, and because I'm in fear and I want to control something, then I'm not so. Then I'm not honoring that inside, that truth. Then we get in that path of a sneakiness of trying to not miss out. We may blend that and not follow that inherent truth that is inside of us. That truth.
Thank you, Amrita ji.
Path.
Maybe one line suggestion from Iger ji. Any quick tip, one-liner. Meanwhile, if you think
just to pray to God. Even if you don't know how, if you pray, He's always answering. He or she, I don't know. I just looked at screen and said he or she.
Thank you. Amraji, one line on any other thing that you want to add. One line. Mantra. Thank you very much. Chanting mantras. One-liner, Christoph ji. One line.
God is at your fingertips. Just reach out and take it.
Nice. Amrita ji.
It answers.
It answers. The silence itself is the answer. Thank you. So, dear friends, I am sure watching us from different parts of the world, we started our discussion on who is God, what is God, and where is God. Christoph ji said God is Satchitanand. It is an experience that has to be experienced through direct experience, not a matter of intellectual understanding only. And it is hard to express. And when every cell of your body starts dancing, you realize that you are approaching closer to it. And Igerji added to what Christoph ji said. He said that God is in every cell of the body. The kingdom of heaven belongs to us, inside us. And Amrita ji also said that the inquiry should begin from who am I? And finally, you will reach that I am him, I am that is me, and the circle becomes complete. And Amraji mentioned that more and more people are getting away from the God. It is not actually they are getting away from the God. They are getting away from the concept of God, which is very narrowly defined by some fundamentalist or dogmatism. And that's why we don't want any ringmaster God. We want a God which we can relate to, providing us purpose of life and joy. For that, Amraji said, why don't you begin with nature? Nature itself is the biggest teacher, and all of the greatest masters learned the lessons of their life from nature. She also said, start doing meditation, yoga. She said, go for a middle path. Less desires, less fears, less chaos, more peace. Then you'll have more time to go inside and chanting the mantras, which will help you to reach directly to your inner peace. Amrita ji mentioned that even if you are angry, upset, and very sad right now, this is the trigger. You can enter into the spiritual realms at this point only, because right now you are seeking for the deeper questions of your life. Be a spiritual scientist, spiritual experimenter. And finally, she said that when I inquired about myself, I realized that I am alive and I am life. And this is what I am. She said that for that to get into yourself, you may get for a master you will find outside, even master you will find inside also. And for that, no convenient path you need to take a path which you're really working. It's not a matter of convenience. Igorji mentioned many points which he said, start with heartfulness, go for yoga, seek a master, go for meditation. And then he said, but before you do it, be open, be receptive, and be listen. Sharvanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. He said that God, the moment God is within you, will start asking questions. God outside will start replying. Start with prayers. And then our dear friend Christoph ji, he said that God and spirituality is within, not without. And it has to be emotionally felt and understood. By Sri Raman Maharshi's inquiry, he said, just sit for 2 hours and start doing that inquiry, and then you'll find that God is at your fingertip. And for that, he said, follow the scriptures. Shastras are also made to make us fearless. I'm sure, friends, now the concept of God will be more clearer, nearer than ever before by our honorable guests. Thank you very much for being with us here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vikrant. Thank you very much.
Hello, Dr. Vikrant. Could we add one word, just one word?
Yes, why not?
Trust.
Trust. So we will take it as the bottom line word.
Take one word right now. We need this a lot in this moment.
And Amritaji also mentioned the importance of silence. Have trust and be in silence. Jesus once said, be still and know I'm your God. So be in silence and have faith. Thank you very much, Amritaji.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'm very grateful today to welcome our next eminent guest, Sophia Strill River, whose skills are beyond expression. She is a spiritual teacher and a writer who promotes inner healing, peace, and universal responsibility. She has authored 3 books with Dalai Lama, including his memoir, My Spiritual Autobiography, in 2009. She is a graduate of Indian Studies from the University of Paris. she traveled to the United States, then to India, where she studied Kala Chakra with Tibetan masters. She received teachings from an Indian Pandit at the Central University of Tibetan Studies in Sarnath and from Tibetan Lama at Kirti Monastery in Dharamshala. In 2016, she co-wrote with Vakya Rinpoche The Meditation Saved Me, story of healing from gangrene of the foot through meditation and mantras. A specialist in mantra therapy, she gives recitals of sacred mantras. In 2017, she published Make the Revolution, the Dalai Lama's Appeal to Youth, translated into English under the title A Call for Revolution. A Vision for the Future, a manifesto by Dalai Lama on the future of the world, a call to put in place solutions for our chaotic and divided times. She is co-founder of Better We, Better World and initiated Be the Love You Want to See in the World. It echoes Mahatma Gandhi's Be the Change You Want to See in the World. She lectured at the United Nations in Geneva on universal responsibility in November 2017 and February 2020. So please welcome Sophia Strill River from France.
Namaskar from Paris, France, where I was happy to welcome you last month, dear Dr. Vikranji, during your tour in Europe. Thank you for kindly inviting me today. Thanks to your team for their wonderful work. And I'm honored and happy to share with you my thoughts about spirituality and happiness. And to begin with, I invite you to imagine a landscape of icy solitude in the mountains of Tibet, east of this immense high plateau, the roof of the world, on the borders of China. It's a winter landscape, 4,000 meters high, and white mountain peaks share an intense, pure blue sky. It's minus 20 degrees Celsius by daytime. And on a snowy slope, as far as the eye can see, meditation huts are built with mud bricks and wood, covered with a faded burgundy red tanned canvas. During the day, the canvas is rolled up, and inside the hut, motionless silhouettes can be seen, meditating in the freezing cold. Their thick purple wool coats lined with sheepskin reveal only their faces and hands. They are young nuns who spend their winter retreat here, sitting as we talk in their little huts, battered by the icy Himalayan winds. Notwithstanding the absence of electricity, heat, bathrooms, and even beds, their smiling faces radiate a happiness that we'd like to see more often in great metropolis. City dwellers enjoy comfort and living conditions that seem surreal compared to these humble hermits, isolated in an environment challenging the human capacity for resilience. If I am evoking them, it's because these young nuns who possess nothing, possess everything in terms of spirituality and happiness. They are the living example of what we are going to talk about, and in their voluntary destitution, they dedicate the practices for the benefit of all beings. And without us even being aware of it, they pray for the cessation of our suffering and the flourishing of our happiness. This is the reality of spiritual happiness, which is an embodied reality, not a mere subject of discussion. I myself had the incredible good fortune to take my first steps in Tibetan Buddhism with a master who had spent a 17-year retreat in a meditation hut on the heights of Dharamshala in the Indian Himalayas. At the time I met him, he lived in a monastery close to the Dalai Lama, and I went to meditate in his hut. I had to bend in half to enter a tiny timber construction of clay. Only a strength of mind out of the ordinary allows to spend 17 years in such a simple place and be able to follow a strict meditation program. This master used to say that these 70 years in the mountain had been the most meaningful and happiest in his life. He left his hermitage only because His Holiness the Dalai Lama requested him to teach, as he was the only lineage holder of the full Kalachakra meditation system out of Tibet. So, after recalling the living reality of spirituality and happiness, I'd like to review with you what science says. Because there is a science of happiness. What biology says, because biology boasts of discovering the happiness gene. And we'll then turn to the great charismatics such as the Dalai Lama, who authored world best-selling books about happiness. The science of happiness, also known as positive psychology, is a recent branch of psychology founded by Dr. Martin Seligman, an American psychologist and educator. Happiness science draws on genetics. From the color of our eyes and hair to an introverted character, we inherit a lot from our parents. But is it possible that our genes can also influence our happiness? According to science, yes. Happiness indeed has a heritable component. Scientists have identified the happiness gene that directly impacts on the production of serotonin, the neurotransmitter known to trigger feelings of happiness. However, much more is at play than just our DNA when shaping life satisfaction. Happiness is considered nowadays 50% genetic, 25% circumstantial, and 25% behavioral, which means that only 25% of our happiness is in our control. And according to this finding, the Greek philosopher Aristotle, for instance, would be only 25% right when he declared that happiness depends only upon ourselves. However, if discovering the happiness gene truly helps to treat depression, traumas, or bipolarity, knowing the gene of happiness doesn't make us happy persons. Similarly, when neuroscientists observe that the parietal frontal circuit of the brain is active in the relationship with the divine, this doesn't make us spiritual persons. So I think it's time to turn to the spiritual practitioners and listen to what they are telling us about spirituality and happiness. Spirituality seeks happiness in the mind. And the Dalai Lama makes this important clarification. Happiness mind shouldn't be reduced to a mere cognitive ability or intellect. In Tibetan, the word for mind is sem, and sem includes intellect and feeling, heart and mind. If humans have the capability of being happy according to the Dalai Lama, the reason isn't in our genes or brain, but in our fundamental quality of goodness. It may sound counterintuitive to declare that human nature is essentially gentle, because it's generally assumed that aggression is the dominant behavior for the human race. But the Dalai Lama observes that when anger, violence, and aggression arise, it happens only on a secondary or more superficial level. Hatred or aggression arise by default when we are frustrated in our efforts to achieve love and affection. Because overall, our fundamental nature is gentleness. It's interesting to note that modern anthropology supports this vision of the Dalai Lama. In the reinterpretation of Darwin's theory of evolution, survival of the fittest has been replaced by survival of the kindest in a new anthropology of peace and loving kindness. So the search for happiness is by itself a spiritual journey, for it means to be able to reconnect to the loving kindness, which is our essential nature. And since what we find in loving kindness is happiness, it follows that happiness also is our very nature. We were born to be happy. We were born to receive happiness and to give happiness. And we don't need to reinvent ourselves to be happy. But we need to acknowledge our true nature. And dwelling in our true nature derives from knowing our true nature is a spiritual happiness that doesn't depend from anything external, whether it's physical or material. For instance, the inner happiness of the Himalayan nuns I was mentioning at the start of my talk. Katha Upanishad designates this natural happiness as pure bliss, called Ananda in Sanskrit. Katha Upanishad says the source of happiness, or Ananda, is always there in the cave of our heart, where it remains covered by darkness until, through spiritual practices, we pull back the veils that prevent us from glimpsing true, unconditional happiness. This is the common teaching of great saints, such as Mahanandamoyi, Nisargadatta Maharaj, Krishnamurti, or the Dalai Lama. And I love these words of Sri Aurobindo. I quote, "Ananda is the secret delight from which all things are born, by which all is sustained in existence, and to which all can rise in the spiritual culmination. Only then, the liberated man, free from ego and his desires, lives at last one with this highest self, one with all beings, and one with God in an absolute bliss of the spirit." Experiencing Ananda, or spiritual happiness, takes us to the experience of oneness and love. And in my understanding, happiness is another word for love. In fact, the first of the four immeasurable, or Chatur Brahmavihara, is love. And in this context, love means helping all sentient beings to experience happiness and the causes of happiness. To connect with our essential happiness, or Ananda, or oneness, or love, I created the Be the Love protocol, inspired by the ancient Indian tradition of Ati Yoga. There are three pillars of the Be the Love meditations. They are view, meditation, and action, as in Ati Yoga, where view is the awareness of our primordial loving kindness. Meditation means removing our conditioning and contemplating our primordial goodness. And action is implementing the love we are in all life situations. And Ati Yoga masters of the past promise that by simply turning our mind towards such view, meditation, and action, you'd experience pure inner happiness and would transform all life's difficulties. Transforming oneself to transform the world is no utopia. It's a pragmatic bias. As I was wondering what Mahatma Gandhi meant when he said, "Be the change you want to see in the world," it dawned upon me that in the radical disruptive change we need today, this is love. And so I adopted Gandhiji's sentence by saying, "Be the love you want to see in the world." The Be the Love protocol is aligned with the United Consciousness Initiative, for it gives access to a holistic experience of love, oneness, and happiness. And it's my life commitment to contribute to the rise of a whole new, loving, peaceful, and happy humanity on a whole new, loving, peaceful, and happy earth. Thank you for your kind attention, and I wish you all a very happy United Consciousness Conclave.
Thank you very much, respected Sophia ji. We are blessed in this United Consciousness Conclave to be here with you. This conclave is also supported by G20 and Civil 20 initiatives of whole world to promote one earth, one family, one future. It is also in line with United Consciousness mission, one consciousness, one being, and Be the Love mission, that be the love which you want to see in the world. So yes, we speak the same language. And so nicely you mentioned about the spiritual happiness, then you also defined the scientific dimensions of happiness, that is there any happiness gene also. You mentioned about Martin Seligman and his approach initiative in positive psychology, which talks about how even genetically happiness is transferred. But at the same time, you mentioned about that the dominant quality of human being, fundamental quality, as His Holiness said, is the goodness. And you also mentioned that, yes, from animal to human, it was survival of the fittest, but from human to divine, it will be the survival of the kindest. So I'm sure that the message will be loud and clear for all the audience here. You also mentioned about how Ananda is defined as a secret behind, from which, secret love from which everything is born. So we all are Anandamaya, we all are full of love. And love is, as you defined, is helping others also to experience love, experience happiness. So, and as your protocol, Be the Love protocol, is working for that, I assure on behalf of Project Self Incorporation and United Consciousness to be always there with you at your beck and call to support the Be the Love initiative, because it is for creating a better world around us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Vikranji. It is always a pleasure to interact with you in these conferences, and it was such a good time to have you in Paris.
Thank you. I could see your background, and I also telecasted once with the same background. Thank you.
Thank you.
We thank Miss Sophia Still River for her beautiful explanation. Thank you so much, Sophia J. I feel delighted to welcome our next performer from Slovenia, Europe, who feels that art easily opens people's heart and links them in a pleasant whole. She is Miss Tjaša Sipis. She is BS in Economics by profession and a sound alchemist or a sound therapist. She is a creator, artist, and alchemist. Her contribution is to give people a deep perception of higher vibrations of this world, the vibrations that make life different and expanded, and open our hearts to love. She has been working with sounds, music, and dancing all her life. Studied with renowned dance educator, music teachers, and sound therapists in Slovenia and abroad. In 1 decade of the implementation of sound services, she created more than thousands of bath, workshops, retreats, treatments, and individual sound seminars for children, youth, and adults. Through the love of music, She was the initiator and co-performers of various experiential and spa concerts with violin, harp, guitar, vocals and gong, as well as other dance and music sound performances and top events. As she was swimming with dolphins and whales, she started to channel their sounds and energy into sound sessions. She has recorded 2 CDs. Through her life activities, she created the sound spa name by which the sound events happen. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Tiasha Cephas.
Hi, I welcome you on United Consciousness Conclave 2022, organized by United Consciousness Global. My name is Tiasha Cephas. I'm from Slovenia.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Ms. Tiasha Cephas from Slovenia for coming onto the platform of United Consciousness and giving her ravishing performance. Thank you so much.
Italian born and raised, Valentina spent 24 years of her life in Kenya as a businesswoman and eventually moved to South Africa in 2017. Mother of 3 beautiful and accomplished souls, Valentina, following her awakening later in life, established the first pranic energy healing center in South Africa in 2018, named Wings and Me. As a result, she started opening her own spiritual gifts, becoming an internationally certified pranic energy healer, serving a wide variety of patients and students. She also holds several diplomas, including one in psychotherapy, dream analysis, and crystal healing.
Through her own spiritual evolution, she has recently developed the Inner Active Mastery Therapy, abbreviated to IAM, which she defines as the new level of psychology. This is a therapeutic journey applying quantum healing, psychology, spiritual teachings, and ancient knowledge to assist hundreds of people across the world healing from their traumatic emotional experiences in 10 easy steps. Envisioning and actualizing the creation of the non-profit organization, the Spiritual Council, in early 2021 has been the natural evolution of her journey to serve others. This time through helping humanity understand that we are not separated beings, but that we are all part of the same human race, and as such, we are co-creating and evolving into higher frequencies of existence together as one. As the Executive Director of the Spiritual Council in Africa, Valentina is also an advisor to the United Consciousness Board in creating the Manual for Happiness. She has also appeared in numerous online awareness events, sharing her knowledge and love with others.
All right, namaste everyone. I would like to start thanking Dr. Vikrant, most importantly, quoted a topic for my presentation that is very, is in my heart, as it forms the core of my mission of service to others. And as a member of United Consciousness, we also believe that the best way to learn something is to teach it. So here I am, as a work in progress. We are also work in progress all the time, having endured my fair share of trauma in the past 55 years. And I can tell you that from my first-hand experience, that you can and you should use your traumatic experiences as a catalyst for your personal growth. So I promise that I will tell you all about it and how to get there. But first, I want to share my joy. I'm actually ecstatic because I've been witnessing finally science trying to align with the very same spiritual beliefs that I hold. And so to celebrate this long-awaited breakthrough, let me share with you what science says about today's topic, which is post-traumatic growth. So it was developed by psychologists, two of them, both with PhD, Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Colhoun, in the mid-1990s. And post-traumatic growth was defined by them as a theory that explained this kind of spiritual transformation that follows trauma. So it is based on the knowledge that people who endure psychological struggle following adversity can often see positive growth afterward. So post-traumatic growth refers to what can happen when somebody who has difficulty in bouncing back from experiencing a traumatic event, meaning that an event that has challenged the person to the core of their belief, will endure also psychological struggles in between, most time also through mental or physical illnesses, then ultimately finds a sense of personal growth. So the crises I'm talking about are, of course, related to death of loved ones, divorce, loss of a job, and bigger things like natural disaster, war, sexual abuse, betrayal, or situation where our world is literally being divided from where we were and then where we are now. So before it happened and after it happened. So it's a definition of a moment that really has changed the life as we know it. But as it happens more often than not, and now we are going to speak from a less scientific perspective, and we just talk about something different. The trauma causes spiritual growth because that strength that is needed and it is required to get out of that trauma can only come as a call from the spirit self, from the higher soul, from that part of us who knows the universal truth, who knows why we have chosen to incarnate in this lifetime. So if it was left to our limited human strength, most people will definitely succumb to their trauma and their emotions, of course, that accompany any traumatic experience, thus causing the soul to leave prematurely the human form. And that's why a lot of people develop, terminal illnesses. And with that, they also leave the opportunity to further develop their character and their personality. So in truth, to the keen observer of the human condition, trauma is one of the biggest catalysts to spiritual awakening and spiritual growth as a result. So why do we say so? Simply because
Amidst our self-created busy lives, full of deadlines, distraction, numbing coping mechanism, we create the opportunity for trauma to take over. You see, if we were just in a state of peace and contentment as a start, we wouldn't be looking at all beyond those extremely enjoyable feelings. Thus, we'd be stalling our spiritual development. So, in a nutshell, being uncomfortable is the state in which most people, unfortunately, needs to be in order to cultivate introspection and to look within their life cycle, so to find the patterns of limiting beliefs that have led them to the state of emotional trauma that they are in the first place. It is that chronic state of utter discomfort that will eventually ignite the search for a way out. And the way out, as you probably know already through following all the United Consciousness event, is looking inward and discover why we are suffering. And the transmutation of suffering into acceptance, contentment, and then eventually peace comes as the final destination for the enlightened soul. And how to get there is the journey called spiritual growth. And trauma is the vehicle we often use to reach that destination. So as early promised, I'm going to discuss also what are the tools that we can use to constructively transcend trauma and, of course, attain spiritual growth. A lot of people tell you a lot of things. I enjoy teaching, getting you to understand what it all means, but most importantly, what's the way out? And that's what I really enjoy teaching people, the way out, because there is a way out. And the way out can only be taught by people who've been there before you and found the way. We can go through all the scriptures, everything. There are a little bit of truths everywhere. But ultimately, nobody has given us from beginning to end how to go about it. And that's the mission of the Spiritual Council in Africa, of whom I'm the executive director, and is to teach people ways to overcome this seemingly endless cycle of suffering. So let's start by saying that simply waiting for time to pass, that does not result in personal growth. It is not time that heals, but how you use that time. So how do we process the shock of trauma? We often think about the distressing events over and over, again and again, day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute. We soak into remembering how the trauma has generated, how it has affected us, and how we are feeling afterwards. So this time spent constantly thinking about the trauma over and over creates and cements, most importantly, it cements within you the emotional feelings of loss, of abandonment, of grief, of hopelessness, of depression, of sadness, and the anxiety and the desperation. And it does that, and it makes you feel that in every now moment. So it is like we keep on living the traumatic event every time the emotions are generated by the thought of the traumatic experience. And guess what? This leaves us in a constant state of trauma, day in, day out. It also creates something physical. It creates and consolidates neurological pathways in response to the trauma, pathways that become permanent if we don't swiftly act to correct the way our neurons fire. So the first step we need to take after the first necessary period of feeling the feelings, which is very, very important, is to proactively move towards developing new principles for living, principles that involve doing things differently, be having altruistic behavior, having a mission in life and a purpose that goes beyond the oneself. So the trauma is then transformed into something that's useful not only for the self, but also for others. And here, hear me well, I'm not minimizing someone's pain and suffering. I'm not advocating that we must forget the traumatic event. What I'm saying is that if we want to exit the cycle of pain that comes with a traumatic experience, we need to consciously choose to direct our attention towards what we want to feel instead of what we have been feeling. And this process does not necessarily erase the pain at all. But over time, I promise you that, it offers new ways to as nobody, and I believe nobody, wants to feel sad or in danger or sick or feeling being a victim of circumstances for the rest of their lives. We all want to ultimately feel happy, feel safe, feel understood, and feel loved. And those feelings need to be found first and then constantly stimulate them. So a technique that I use to overcome my own trauma. I'm not exempt from it, in spite of the fact that I've been on a spiritual journey for the long time ever. Every morning, I choose what I want to feel for that day. Literally, every day, I can decide what I want to feel. So if today I want to feel, I don't know, I want to feel united with people, I want to feel more loving, more grateful, more understanding, I wake up and I write that actually in my little diary. I put the date and then I put what I want to feel today. And then underneath I write, how can I find ways to stimulate those feelings? Because it's only by keep on finding them first within you and then stimulate them constantly, the feeling that you want to feel, like joy, happiness, safety, belonging, then we can continue feeding the happy neurons instead of feeding those ones that took us down the path of re-experiencing the traumatic feelings. In this process, we literally physically build new pathways, new ways of responding to traumatic events. And trust me, traumatic events, they keep on happening for as long as we have things to learn, for as long as we hold limiting beliefs, for as long as we hold trauma, life will keep on giving us these experiences. So once you've tried it the first time, you realize that yes, it takes experiential, it takes repetition, it takes a lot of strength. It's easier to fall deep into the old patterns of victimism. That's the easiest way possible. That is like a subconscious programming. But it takes much strength to get out of it and try to choose to do things differently. And that is your higher soul that allows you and gives you that support that you need to come out of it. And trust me that every day it is a choice that we all have in every now moment to choose how we want to feel. And this is a very empowering statement I've just made. Every day we have a choice that in every now moment we can decide how we want to feel. And as I said, transformation won't happen in a day, but repetition makes one perfect. And I truly wish, if you're experiencing negative emotion right now, to find the strength within you to try out new ways of being. I also want to highlight that there is nothing wrong or abnormal regarding those people who do not want to choose the path of post-traumatic growth, as trauma is about loss, and people who are already more vulnerable than others are more susceptible to trauma. May be harder for them to see the bigger picture on their own. And these people may require therapy, may require time in solitude, may require literally somebody who hold their hands and take them through that time of their life. So say that if you are one of those who have chosen the growth avenue, to evaluate whether or not or to what extent you have achieved growth after trauma, I would like you to look for 5 response areas. Okay, so if you have moved, and doesn't matter how far you've moved, even a little step forward is a fantastic example of growth. So look into appreciation of life. Where am I at? Relationship with others. Where am I at? New possibilities in life. Am I stuck or moving? Personal strength. Am I still falling or I'm picking myself up? And then last but not least, spiritual change. Spiritual change is one very important aspect, as reconnecting to our spirit can actually play a factor in being open to experiencing post-traumatic growth. And many people seek out spiritual experiences after trauma or report that their participation perhaps in religious event prepares them for spiritual growth after this traumatic event. And spiritual practices, but not necessarily religious, such as pondering how life experiences relate to our understanding of who we are and our place in the world, encourages that sort of contemplation that helps them process the trauma. And also by routinely practicing forgiveness. And I want you to really write down this word: forgiveness, acceptance, gratefulness, or relaxation and reflection through meditation and yoga practices. Being a suitable therapist, people can literally be transformed in positive way they did not anticipate. As you know now, life can take on new meaning as people evolve from the role of victim to victor, as they emerge from a trauma. So my advice is always not to waste unnecessary fuel or unnecessary energy to feed that trauma. Find ways to make trauma your friend. Find ways to make trauma your teacher. Try to understand it. Understand why it came about.
And once you find that understanding, and that understanding can only come through introspection with the ways I've highlighted earlier. I have just come out, or I'm still coming out of a very painful time of my life. And that understanding of why it has happened and realizing what are the limiting beliefs I'm holding, and that's why I'm suffering so much, have taken me to be in solitude, in an hibernation mode for a few months. But that has helped me to come out stronger because it has guided me straight out of that suffering by improving and strengthening my personality and my character. And of course, that's me, and we all handle life crises in different ways, but ultimately the goal of post-traumatic growth is to explore and find meaning in our experiencing, finding positives in the distressive aftermath of every trauma. And if you think of it, it is, after all, our ultimate goal in life to make this existence, this life, this experience a meaningful one. Being into the conscious process of constant self-development, because as we overcome our own sufferings, guess what? We can teach others how to end theirs. And the human condition right now is very painful, and I'm so glad that I belong to this huge supportive community of United Consciousness where we are all happily, literally happily striving through our own suffering. And once we are out of it, we have new tools, a new way to help others to come out of this. So if you're interested in personal growth or seeking further guidance on how to overcome trauma, do contact us at the Spiritual Council, as we have truly invested our resources and knowledge in improving people's lives. Because through understanding emotion and the role the emotion plays in our very own cycle of suffering is ultimately the way out of it. So I want to thank you for your time, for listening to me, and I wish you peace, tons of peace today and always. So namaste.
Thank you very much, Valentina ji, and great discourse on how to convert post-traumatic stress disorder into post-traumatic growth. You mentioned about science, you mentioned about spiritualism also, you mentioned also about the techniques that has worked for you, like choose every morning how do you want to feel today, and second, to find the ways to stimulate that feeling and repeat it again and again so that you can develop better neural pathways. You also mentioned about the importance of forgiveness, acceptance, gratefulness, and meditation. You also mentioned about the response areas, what what we need to appreciate about our life, what are the new possibilities in life, what spiritual changes I need to develop, so that making trauma a friend, a teacher, rather than suffering by a prospective setting, so that I can become from victim to victor in life. I'm sure it will be fairly helping to our audience. And thank you for being with us always, blessing us whenever we request you to. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Ms. Valentina for her exhilarating performance. Thank you so much.
I'm very much excited to welcome and introduce our next performer, Mr. Hosu from Honduras, Director at the World's Association of Throat Singing and work for Führung at Hosu and Trans-Mongolia Co-Limited, and team leader at Hosu Music. Studied at the Hamburg School of Music, attended from 2002 to 2004. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome the wonderful performance by Mr. Hosu.
Welcome you on United Consciousness Conclave 2022, organized by United Consciousness Global. Welcome.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Mr. Hosu for coming onto the platform of United Consciousness and giving such a beautiful performance. Thank you so much.
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्।
This shloka means, may everyone be happy, may everyone be free from all diseases, may everyone see goodness and auspiciousness in everything, may none be unhappy or distressed. Om Shantihi, Shantihi, Shantihi. I am highly privileged to have this opportunity to present my gratitude to all those who have witnessed and blessed this event directly or indirectly. I believe that this is not the end, but the beginning of our journeys. The journeys towards the noble cause of removing the 14 divides rooted in human race and promoting harmonious and peaceful coexistence. Firstly, I thank the God for blessing us all. I thank European Yoga Federation, thank the Spiritual Council in Africa. I am also very thankful for Yoga Witha, Germany, Yoga Lam, Russia, Siddhashram, Turkey, Nidra Consciousness, France, Yoga Yogismo, South America, AAYT, Australia, World Movement for Yoga and Ayurveda, Italy, CUIDY, Italy, the World Community of Indian Culture and Traditional Disciplines, Italy. I owe my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Anna Galovikova, Swami Suryananda Saraswati, Dr. Jedranko Maklik, Ms. Amy Blesio, Mr. Andrei Lebanov. I'm very thankful to our esteemed panelists, Ms. Amrita Madala, Mr. Iger, Ms. Amra Kuber, Mr. Christoph Steck. I'm also very thankful to Ms. Sophia Strill River and Ms. Valentina Courtney. I'm thankful to our cultural performers. I owe my heartfelt thanks to Team Project Self USA, Shri Rajesh Rabindranath, Ms. Pavitra Srinivasan, Ms. Madhurika Arvind, Ms. Rashmi Kashi, Dr. Prasad Akavu, Dr. Vijay Reddy, Ms. Gina Suresh, Mr. Kartik Palamalai, Mr. K.L. Alexander, Mr. Venkat Sriram Lalu, Ms. Deepthi Nair, Ms. Avneet Bad, Mr. Suresh, Mr. Devaraju, Ms. Deepa Arun. I thank Team Project Self Bharat, Dr. Vikrant Singh Tomar, Dr. Shweta Tomar, Aditi Meghna Mausan Prachi, Mr. J.S. Juneja, Dr. Paramji Juneja, Rishi Vishalji Arnav, Aditya Ashwin, Rati Dharmendraji Uday, Poojaji Bhartiji, Diptiji, Amrishji, Mrinalniji, Khushbuji, Jimmyji, Mr. Sanjay Rajput, Ms. Simran Reel. I am also very grateful for our new members in the team of United Consciousness, Ms. Aishwarya, Ms. Priyanka and Mr. Prakash Tyagi. I am very much thankful to our wonderful audience and all the visible and invisible sources blessing us.